That was Dave Brubeck, take 5. And seems like a nice thing on a Halloween day. We're doing percents. I had some problems I wanted you to do for me today. Problem number 1, number 2, and number 3. Are there questions in those?
Yeah, how do you do them?
Oh, come on. The response was, how do you do them?
You can't expect us to get a first try.
Well, these are review problems. This is not like the first try. This is supposed to be from the past and that short-term memory that you don't lose. Okay, let's look at the document, Cameron. This is problem 1. Now, of those, probably the one that, and by the way, we want to write these as a what? Common fraction. So as I look at the 5 problems, just barely. We can see 66 2/3 at the top. I'll try to slide that down, nudge it just a bit, and 1/4% on the bottom. So, what is your technique here? What are your choices? You want it as a common fraction. So what are your choices?
To divide?
Well, I don't have anything I can really divide in something like 75%. Do what?
75.
I want these as common fractions. What? There we go. Tara says, put it over 100. You bet. Let's look at the 75% again. You have 75 over 100, and then what are you supposed to do? Ach, du lieber, nein. Not move the decimal over because we want it as what? A common fraction. That was a great answer for as a decimal. But as a common fraction, when you get 75 over 100, what do you do?
Then can you divide it?
Leanne says reduce it. Yes. 75 over 100 and then reduce. Now, if I come back and want 75% as a decimal, I divide by the 100 and the decimal goes 2 places to the left. Well, that worked out pretty well there. Let's look at one that's not so easy. Back to the document, Cam, the last one. 1/4%. What was that as a common fraction? How did you approach it? I want it as a common fraction, not as a decimal. You gave me a good decimal answer, which is 0.0025. I didn't want that. I want the common fraction. What is it? Okay, 25% would be 25 over 100, but this is 1/4%. Okay, Adrian says it's going over 400. Who's going over 400? The 1. I know you aren't that old. Okay, so it's 1 over 400. Okay, get the idea? One more I want to ask about. Part D. 133 1/3%. I want it as a common fraction. What are you going to do? Okay, let's try that. Tara? What do you say?
1 1/3.
Very good. Let's come off there. It is 1 1/3 because you could have changed it to a decimal at 1.33 1/3. That's 1 1/3, and as a common fraction, 1 1/3 is 1 1/3 common fraction. 4/3, improper fraction, right? 1 1/3 is 4/3. Okay. Now, the intent here is not to go back and rehash all that material from the 18th lesson that we reviewed earlier. But nonetheless, if you're having a little bit of trouble there, you want to spend some time on it. Okay, this is problem number 2. Now, this was a case where I wanted a percent as a decimal fraction. Okay, what about part C? 250% as a decimal fraction. Okay, the answer was, as we come off there, 2.50, or just 2.5.
So would you put that over, like,
Okay, let's go back to the problem. I could, instead of moving the decimal point, rewrite it as what? 250 over 100.
yeah.
Okay, so if I write 250 over 100, then I could move the decimal 2 places to the left because I'm dividing by 10 to the second. Okay, let's go to another one. Part, as I slide this up, this is the low-tech scroll, 0.5% as a decimal. 0.5% as a decimal. Okay, Lewis. 0.005. Yes. The answer that sometimes is wrong, 0.5. So 0.005. That was 0.5%. Now, by the way, what was that related to yesterday? The 0.5% with mortgages. What else we talked about yesterday? What taxes in particular? Not on cars. Political. Okay. Ernie, we'll give you a shot on this one. What? Measure K. That 0.5%. Now, right, yeah. This is trying to redeem himself from yesterday, right? Okay, consider yourself better shape today. So Measure K was that 0.5%. I was reading in the paper today that there was a debate or something. Nobody else showed up, so the person debated with the empty chair. I thought that was interesting. That was, I think, a Measure K in today's paper. You know, argue with yourself just before they take you off. Okay, let's go to another problem. This was problem 3. Same kind of discussion in problem 3. Now, in this case, you're to write a decimal as what? As we look at the page, the decimal fraction as a percent. Now, what is your rule in this as we look at these? Changing to a percent, what do you do? Okay, the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, as we come off there, you're going to move 2 places to your right to get a percent. Always 2 to the right for a percent, starting with the decimal. So with that said, let's look at this one, part C. What is your answer as a percent? Be careful. And I want it without a decimal point at any decimal involved. I want this as a percent with no decimal. With no decimal. 5% is not going to do it. Give you another shot. 0.5%? A what? 0.5%? Yes, it is. Because Lewis just said that 0.5% was what? So we come off there. Lewis commented 0.5% is 0.005. So if I give you 0.005, go the other direction, 0.5%. Okay, let's try another one. This is one that's not very comfortable for many of us. 3.5 as a percent. 2 places to the right, 350. Therefore, 350%. Now, where do we hit 350% in our society? In what? When you sell something. Does that sound? I mean, are we really going to get charged 350%? Let's play with that for a moment. Is it a reasonable value? 350%. Well, let's try this out. One of the things we talked about the last hour was pizza. Now, really, at this point, for most of you, I don't think we'll make you too hungry. We're just mid-morning. So we're going to talk about pizza for a moment. If you were to, at a pizza place, pay for the ingredients for that big super pizza, how much do you think the ingredients are running you? You buy them in large quantity.
They charge $1 for extras.
No, I'm just asking for the ingredients. You're going to make a pizza, this big party-sized pizza. How much are you paying for the ingredients, roughly speaking? No idea whatsoever? I mean,
Maybe a quarter.
$5 for the ingredients? Well, big pizza. But you're buying your ingredients in bulk, so you get the cheese at a very small amount per
No, you're
cup.
like $20, $30 for everything. Because the pizza.
No, I'm not talking about you going down and paying for the things at the store. You go and make your own big pizza, you're going to pay $20 or $30 for all your ingredients, but you aren't going to use all of them. And you aren't buying in bulk. So my guess is that that pizza you pay $20 for maybe ran $5 just for the ingredients. So let's look at that problem. Now, can we go to the board in this with the cameras the way they are, Ernie? We're going to try it. Okay. So let's say that your cost is $5. Now, we talked about the prices for the large pizzas at different places. I heard figures from $17.95 to $30 for large pizzas, depending on where you're going.
Yeah, Mountain Nights is 30.
30? Okay, let's take the $30
Well, from mountain-sized pizzas.
a mountain-sized pizza. So the large pizza, $30. What's the markup? What do we mean by markup? No, I just want the markup itself, not as a percent yet.
$5.
The markup is the difference between the cost and what you sell it for,
So
right?
$25.
So our markup is $25.
What a rip-off.
Now, before we consider them immoral,
Well,
you have to pay for what?
the
The lease on the place, the equipment that you're using, plus the ingredients, the employees, insurance, you name it, and so on. But nonetheless, that's not all profit. You need to understand that. But the markup as a percent of cost is what? So the question is, markup MU as percent of cost.
Isn't that like 75%?
Oh, I want the percent, correct? Of cost. So I take the part that is the markup, put it over the whole, which is the cost. So I have 25 over 5, which as a decimal is what? What's the answer? 25 over 5.
125?
Folks, thank you. Cancel. We've gone brain dead on Halloween. Okay?
We're in our graves.
In our graves. We're getting there quickly. A 5, what is that as a percent then if it's 5.0 as a decimal? What did you do just a moment ago to go from a decimal to a percent? You go 2 places to the right, and so your answer, and you're, I think, uncomfortable with this answer is what I'm sensing.
500%.
500, as Adrian and first stated, 500%. Okay? Now, agreed. That's not all profit. Now, what if you say instead, markup as a percent of retail? Markup as a percent of the retail. What is considered the retail? The $30. So your $30 is the base now. So markup, now be careful, markup as percent of retail. Otherwise, you're selling this pizza for $30. Your markup this time, that's your part, is 25. Your base is the $30. Okay. So this is the rate again. And what do you get when you do the division? It is 5 over 6, which is what is a percent? Okay, but what is my decimal? You have calculators. You're welcome to use that or reduce it to 5 over 6, and you may have that in your head, but you may not. What do you get when you divide 30 into 25? Let's do it. Hold on before you say it. Let me get some more answers going here. Let's get some people doing this. Do it longhand or with a calculator. That's your choice. Now, I want you to have a calculator for this unit, and it's the small 4-function calculator that we talked about yesterday, and this is the key set as we look at the document cam. That's what I want, not a scientific one for the test. This is the one I want you to use. This is the 99-cent special at the 99-cent store. Okay, so get this by Thursday. Now back to the board. What was your decimal here? 0.83 and a third, correct? So what is it as a percent? 83 and a third percent. Now notice the difference. As a percent of cost, 500%, but as a percent of retail, 83 and a third percent. Makes a big difference. Here's my point to you. We have three types of problems we do. So what I'm going to do at this point, Ernie, is just move a little bit to the right. And this was the first one. Percentage equals what? Base, fill it in, times the rate. Then the rate is, how do you get the rate from this problem? Divide both sides by the base. So you get the percentage over the base. And finally the base, coming back to this problem, divide both sides by R. And you get P over R. Now the problems we've been talking about so far are the first group. You get a percentage. No, I take that back. I've been talking about what? I was just thinking what we were doing here, and we're actually doing the rate. We found a percent in each case. My apologies. So we focused on that second one in these first problems.
So you get percent of those?
Well, the rate is a percent always. The P stands for percentage. Now, because of that, and I'm going to slide over to left justify here, Ernie. So just slide over a little bit more, and we come to space left. There we go. Another way of writing this is what? The part of, so the part equals what? The whole times the percent. That's another way of thinking of it. This, the percent, is your part over the whole. And finally, the whole down here is equal to the part divided by the percent. Now, the downside of thinking of part and whole, there's a notion, and what camera am I on now? Okay, I'm going to go back to center on 1. The question here, when you say part and whole, what comes across in your head, relatively speaking, to a part and whole?
Part of the whole?
The part of the whole, right? That the part is smaller than the whole. Agreed? But the problems we just did is backwards, because we looked at the pizza problem and the part that was the increase was $25, and the cost, which was your original whole, was only $5. So the part sometimes can be more than the whole, and that's difficult. And if I were looking at problems and I don't see the percent sign in the problem, so in this case, I tell you $5 for the cost, and I'm going to go ahead and sell it for $30, and my markup's $25. I'm hunting for a percent. Your question, how do you typically find the part and the whole? I'd say the majority of the time there's an easy rule of thumb, but you get trapped here. The easy rule of thumb, the part's smaller, the smaller of two numbers. But you would have been trapped in this case. So you have to be careful with retail problems, because generally speaking, retail problems have markups in many areas of our economy where the markup is more than the cost of the item. So for example, I was going to say one of the things we talked about in the last hour was car parts. And so particularly if you are buying a new car and they will give you the car at something like above cost by just a small amount. So let's look at a typical problem there, and I still have some room on the right side yet, but let's look at a $20,000 car you're getting. That's the cost. So you know that that's their inventory cost. And you realize right now what's true about the Detroit automobiles. What's happening right now? Ford, GM, Chrysler. What can't they sell? SUVs and big trucks. The gas guzzlers. And that's the trade-off for what? The $3 plus a gallon that's still there. Even though the gas has gone down nearly $1, it's still in people's heads that it's going to go up again. And so they aren't willing to buy the large vehicle. Now, Detroit has just reported a huge loss for the Ford Motor Company in August, September, and it was in the huge amounts of money. I was thinking it was like $6 billion that they've technically lost because they aren't selling the vehicles. Well, gas card gets you so far. The argument was, give you a gas card. Yeah, I want gas for the next 20 years, whatever the cost. But here's the problem. They will try to sell those at inventory or make a little bit. So let's say it's a $20,000 inventory cost, but they want 10% more. What are they selling it for? Set it up, $20,000 cost, and they are going to charge you 10% above cost. Write it down. Show me your work. Document your work. I want the work documented because on a test, doing it in your head is not going to get you the extra points. Okay? So it's a $20,000 cost, and we are selling it 10% above cost. What is the additional amount they're charging you? That's my question. Write down your answer. I know some of you can do it in your head, and that's great. But let's start with that $20,000, and this is the stripped down model. Okay, as it stands right now, this does not even have a radio in it, or a heater, okay, or carpets, okay? And this is pretty well stripped down. I mean, this is about as bad as it gets. So $20,000, okay, they only give you 4 wheels. They don't give you the spare. Okay, we're going to the sideboard. $20,000 in cost. Okay, and it's a 10%. So this is cost, and it's 10% above cost. So the increase you're going to pay is, so we want what? Part, whole, or rate? We want the part above that you pay. So that is the setup. Whole times the rate or percent. So that was 20,000 times 10%. So 10% is 10 over 100. That's 1 over 10. You're dividing by 10, so you get 2,000, as Teresa said. So $2,000 above cost. Now, if you change the 10% to a decimal, it's what? 0.10. So you multiply by 0.10. And we talked about how you can use your calculator to do that. So you're out the door, this stripped down model with no spare, no radio. Maybe the windshield wipers are optional. But the argument is 22,000. Now, as Tara says, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start adding things on. So the radio sells cost to the dealer $200. How much will they charge you, potentially, to make up for what they're losing here? $400. Markup may be 100%. And that's not unusual. And it's not just in the automotive. If you are going into accessories for cameras, oftentimes the camera, to be competitive with internet sales, will be just barely above cost, maybe by 10%. But if you want to buy a camera bag or some optional equipment, then it's again going to be what? More likely 100% markup. Otherwise, they paid 20, they sell it for 40. Folks, somehow or the other, the business person has to make enough money to live and pay the rent, pay the heat, pay their employees, and their overhead costs, oftentimes for things like health insurance for an employee, get very difficult. And that's one of the reasons why other countries producing vehicles or anything else don't have the same overhead costs, and they do it for less. Okay? And it's really a dilemma for the businessman in the United States. Now, with this cost factor, let's look at some other problems. This time, I'm going to go ahead and spend some time on the problems that are in the supplementary set. Okay, so we're going to look at page 122 and 123, and we're going to try to find what we're hunting for. So I'll go back to center on this. And the goal here is to ask the question, what is it I'm hunting for? Because if I know what I'm looking for, I know what formula to write down. So you have 3 formulas that you can use. Yeah, if you know what it is you're hunting for, just like the how much problem, it guides you. So I'm on page 122 and 123. These are the supplementary problems. So let's look at some of these. And I'll just pick a problem, and you tell me what it is you're hunting for, the part, the whole, or the percent. And I want you to write down on paper before you say it. I don't want you to say it out loud. I want you to be able to figure out on paper and then write the appropriate formula. A store advertises a discount of 20%. Now, the discount on the item was $39.95. I want you to decide whether it is the part, the whole, or the percent. Write what you think it should be and the formula that goes with it. That's all I'm asking in this problem. And so, Ernie, I'll be going to camera 2 on the side. So we'll leave that up on the screen just for a moment more, and then I will go to the board. And my question again, what is it you're hunting for, and what is the formula you need to write? So I wanted, again, I gave you the information, discount of 20%, and the actual discount is $39.95. So as I come to the board, you should have had this answer written down as we write it. I'm hunting for the whole. Because, as we go back to the problem, the discount was what? Oh, hold it. My apologies. I thought the discount was $39.95. Adrian, my error. We want the discount. I thought the discount was $39.95. So I'm hunting for the discount. So Adrian is correct. It is the part. So we'll come to the board on that. And the part is equal to what? Formula. I need the formula. The whole times the percent. That would be your formula, and then you would do the substitution. Okay? Let's go back to that problem. And what I didn't read carefully enough, I just saw discount in $39.95, and I thought the discount was $39.95. I can't say that today. Well, if you're going to do it in terms of PB and R, P equals B times R. Percentage equals base times rate, or you could say rate times base. It does not matter, but usually B times R. Okay, the next one. This is one that I wish happened to me occasionally. I've never had it happen yet. You're going on vacation, and the airline tells you that they're refunding you money. I don't know if any of you ever had an airline refund you any money. I can't think of any time that's happened, but there's been a 20% reduction in fees or fares. And they send you a check for $50. This is called Fantasyland. Yeah, this is Fantasyland. But write me what you're hunting for and the formula this time. Vacation couple refunded $50. Now maybe if you go through a travel agency, they might do it. But if you just are doing online and they reduce their fares, they'll say, too bad, you bought your tickets too early. Yes, should have bought them the next day. Write down what it is you're hunting for and give me the formula. Okay, so again, refund, $50, 20% reduction. Okay, Adrian, you chose well last time. What's your selection this time as we go to the board? Okay, he says the whole, and he's going to deal that with What is your equation? Part? Ah, you said be careful. You did an age at the end I didn't want to hear. Not over percentage, over the percent. That's what you have to be careful about. The percent versus the percentage. That's why I like part, whole, and percent. Okay, so that would be your setup. What would you then do next? Substitute the part and the percent, divide, and get your answer. Now, again, you have to show me the steps. The formula, this is your formula, then the substitution, and your answer to get full credit. Okay, back to the document cam. Let's do a third one. Okay, looking again at problems here as we come off there for a moment, Ernie. Let's see what we can do this time. Here's a very typical problem that we do in the academic area all the time. You get 35 problems correct on a 45-question test, and what you want is pretty clear here. As you look at the problem, write what you want in this case. Give me the formula, and then we'll talk about it. So this is 35 problems correct, 45-question test. I want the percent correct, and of course the question, what is it you want? And this is sort of who's buried in Grant's tomb kind of question. Okay, this time, you should have written something for me already. This time it is percent you want, correct? Because it asks what percent. Now, what do you write down for your formula for percent? Okay, part over the whole. If you prefer the PB and R routine, then it would be R is equal to the percentage over the base, and that is acceptable, but then you still have to substitute either way. Now, those are three different types of problems. Okay, I usually consider the first one, this part, as type 1. I usually consider this one as type 2. And then this last one, type 3. Of the problems you do, which one do you do most often in our society? Interesting. So you see yourself getting percents more often than, because what I have in mind is your sales tax on a daily basis, your income tax on a yearly basis, the discounts on, I see more of these in my area. If I'm in academia, I see a lot of this for creating tests, but I don't see this very often. This is highly unusual right here as a type of problem. Okay? Okay, let's go back to the document cam. Well, let's see, we got one more to go, I think. That'll give us just under half of them. Let's see if we can find another one and see what we're going to do with this one. This is number 9, and it tells you to do something. Use the calculator. Now, this is to find the discount, the sale price, the sales tax, and the final price. And it's a 15% discount. And boy, wouldn't you like to live at this location? 4% tax, where we're paying 7 3/8. So there's your information. It's a $250 calculator, very fancy. Well, a cell phone, a very nice cell phone at $250, which has a calculator as part of it. Discounted at 15%, taxed at 4%. And I'm going to write over here in the sideboard what it is I want you to tell me. So we have the discount I'm interested in. Then what? So we come off there. Discount and what? Not sales tax yet. How about the sale price? So we start with the retail. So up here you start with the retail price. And then you're going for what? The discount, the sales price, then what? The tax that you pay, and then what you call the final price?
Yeah, your total.
Call this the total
Yeah,
on the invoice you're writing up.
and total you're paying on it,
Okay, this is out the door. Retail, discount, sale price, tax, and total. And you have this as your direction. Use a calculator. And it is the calculator that's what? Now let's try the document cam for a moment. Okay, the calculator that you're using here is going to allow you to put all this in and get it stepwise as you go down. So the calculator is that very basic one. So I'm going to leave this in the board. We need to try to see what we can do to get that. So what we're going to do is think in terms of a particular calculator. This is the calculator I have in mind. This is the very basic four-function calculator. And we're going to enter information into this calculator and get those answers. So the process, just a reminder, is on page 117. So let's go back to that. And I do need to have you have this calculator by the next meeting, if you don't already have it, because the method that we're going to follow is right here, where you start with the $49.95. This is a case where we had a $49.95 item that had a 25% discount and had a tax at 7.25%, which is, I understand, a little bit more like Merced's tax rate. We're at an 1/8% more than that. But let's see if you can get this one to work with your calculator. So again, it's the small four-function calculator. Will you take that out? And if you don't have it with you, do it longhand. Or with your scientific one, but come up with something. So you're going to see if you can get this to work. This is what you have to have memorized. So as we come off there for a moment, Ernie, I'm going to slip a calculator underneath here next to the problem, and let's see if I can do them side by side. Bring that up just a little bit, and I think this will work. Okay, so there's my problem, and here's my calculator. So what I need to do, of course, is turn it on. And I don't like the glare that I'm getting, or lack thereof. So I'll pull it down this far so we can see some numbers. There's the 0 I have. Now what are you supposed to do first? No, in this case, I'm going to do the one that's on the screen. $49.95. So I'm going to put the 49.95. Didn't get the whole thing in, so let me hit it harder. 49.95. Have my whole number in. Then what do? It says press times. I'm just going to follow the directions on the screen. So I'm going to press times. Let's see if I can do this with a pen. Times. And then I enter what? 25 on page 117. So I enter the 25, and then what am I supposed to do? Press the percent key. Now we're supposed to see at that time, and the percent key's right up here, there's my $12.49 technically. Your tax, if it were a tax, would be that, but as a discount, it's going to be rounded down to what? $12.48. So as a tax, it would be $12.49. As a discount, $12.48. Now, I want to subtract that off, so I'm going to hit a minus sign. Now, you didn't see on my calculator what I hoped you would see by hitting the minus sign. That depends on your calculator. But when I hit the equal sign, I get the $37.47. This is the discount sale price. Now, your discount was at $12.48. It's the difference of those two. Did any of you in your calculator, when you hit the percent sign, see the 12.4875? Some of you did on your calculators. That's typical. This calculator is so generic, it doesn't even have a logo on it. Nobody claimed manufacturer for this one. Okay, but you should, when you hit a minus sign, see that $12. Now what am I going to do? This is my sale price. Now I have to multiply it by my tax rate. So I hit times, and then I hit 7.25. So 7.25, and that's a percent. And this time I did get the in-between step. There's my actual tax at $2 and what? 72 cents, because you'll round your tax up. And then what am I going to hit? Plus, and then that should give me, with the equal sign, what I want, which is the $40.18 I'll pay. So you're going to do the same thing on the problem we have on problem 9. So if you've got your calculator out, let's see if you can get it to work. So coming off there, you have to remember those steps, because on the test you'll be allowed to use your calculator, but you won't be able to have that as information. So we're going to problem 9 again. Let me bring the camera down just a little bit tighter. Okay, let's see if I can get it so I'm not running into keystoning. There we go. So we're starting on a $250 item, correct? And we're discounting at 15%. So what's your first step going to be?
250.
You're going to enter 250, correct? So let's see if we can put those steps up here. We enter 250. So we go to the board. Now I'm going to times by what? 15%. Is it 15% discount on this? Yes. Okay, so 15%. So you're going to enter 15, then you're going to hit a percent key. Now at some point you get a readout. What is it you read at the percent key? Anybody? The 3.8279? I'm not getting, remember this is at 15%, so you have 250 times 15%, and I'm not getting the same answer. 3750? So I'm getting this from most of you. Now does it make sense? Well, what would be 10% of 25? 250. It'd be 25, correct? And 5% would be half of that. Okay, so we'd have 25 plus 1250, and that's 37.5. So this is called the what? What did we get? Leon? Do we agree that this is the discount? So this is your discount. It helps to know what it is you're getting in each part. So that's your discount. Now, what are we supposed to do to that discount? Subtract it from the retail. So I'm going to hit a minus key. And then equals. And what do you have here? Next number, Adrian. 212.5. And that should be what then? The sale price. The sale price. This is what you are supposed to pay before we tax it. Okay, then you times it. Now what was our tax rate? Let's go back to the document, Cam. Just so we can see it, 4%. And I can't think of any place that does that, but we're going to put times 4. Come back to the board. Hit a percent key. And when you hit the percent key, what do you get? 8.5 exactly? And this represents what? The tax, the sales tax you're going to pay. And then you're going to hit plus and an equal sign. And what do you have with the equal sign? $221. And this is what? This is your total. Now this worked out pretty nicely because I didn't have to round off anything. Now be careful when you write up an invoice. This is retail. Now if you're having to round down, then when you do it in the calculator and you subtract this off, you may have to round this up. So on your invoice, if you round down the discount, you'll round up the sale price. You'll round up the sales tax, right? And therefore your total will be rounded up also. And you get to pay the most possible money at any time. Yes, money out of your wallet, it's up. Money coming back to you, it's down. We got it? Let's go back to the document cam one more time. That was the problem, and that process I want you to be able to do. So the question, what do I want you to have done by tomorrow? Well, you need to memorize this process, but there are 9 problems here in this supplementary. Listen carefully. This is a one-shot opportunity. 9 problems. We've done one of them completely. You just have to write it up. I want them on separate paper, written up, formula, substitution, and answer. Turn them in tomorrow. It's right or wrong. It's no partial credit. All right or all wrong. 9 problems. For the ones that are all right, all correct, you get 1 point each extra credit for the exam on Thursday. Formula, substitution, and answer. 9 problems, 9 points possible. It's due tomorrow at the beginning of the hour. No late work, no makeup. We got it? In addition to that, okay, so that'll get all the supplementaries done. Keep in mind that tomorrow is Wednesday. It's the last day we get to work on the unit before the test on Friday, which will take most of the hour. So tomorrow, we're going to look at other questions in the unit and talk about them, but you need to spend time not only on these supplementaries, but what? The rest of the unit. That sounds like Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. The rest of the story is do the rest of the problems. That includes the unit test. So let's see what all you have to do. There's a unit or percent test on page 119. Okay, that's this percent test that starts out with the same kind of thing we did today, 3 different approaches. Then, in addition to that, you have this problem, which I would think you'd want to do. This is page 118, where you have a 33 1/3% discount on a $74.99 calculator with a tax at 7.25%. You should be able to get that done, and there are 10 problems before that. So let's see, you've got 11. You already did 3 of the 11. You have 5 in the unit test, 9 in the supplementary problems. Memorize the steps for your calculator and be in a position tomorrow to discuss the questions, have your book done, and test on Thursday. Well, you do the trick-or-treating, you do your problems while you're trick-or-treating. So you just keep your book near the door. When the doorbell rings, you stop momentarily, give out the candy, come back and do more work on this unit. The color of the book is most appropriate for Halloween.
No, I know.
Think of this just like a nice big pumpkin.
Just have the trick-or-treaters do a problem for candy.
Oh, okay. The trick-or-treat part. If you want the candy, do one of these problems. That'll be a very good treat or trick, whichever way you look at it. So with that, we're bringing closure to Halloween's